Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forest Job. It's a brand new season here at the City Ground, and you'll notice that we're starting with a lot of departures from the team, and none more shocking, I would imagine, for some of you than that of the Dragon, Raul Centurion, who has ended up leaving the club after a good few years with us. We had an offer that came in for him. It was fairly close to his market worth, and looking at him and the fact that he really had reached the pinnacle of his career, he wasn't going to get any better, and in fact, he was starting to decline slightly. I made the very difficult decision to let him go. Another departure, which you might notice, which is fairly shocking to some of you, will perhaps be that of Niangbo, who was in the last year of a contract. He didn't want to re-sign. I knew we weren't going to give him quite enough playing time to convince him otherwise, and so I made the difficult decision to move him on. Where he has moved to, though, might surprise you. We'll get into that in a little bit. The rest of the departures, starting at the top there, Ryan Babel left the club for £24 million. I haven't kept track, I'm afraid, of the teams that most of the players have gone to, although I believe Ryan Babel is now playing for Nagoya Grampus 8. Nyangbo, we already talked about. He went on a part exchange deal, and we'll get into that in a second. Laurent Koscielny leaving the club. He basically was only ever signed to be sold, the same as a couple of other players on this list. But we got a decent chunk of change for him. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the region of £24 million. So Laurent Koscielny has also moved on. Yates has left the club as well. We had an offer from, and I'm trying to remember for the life of me who it was now. It was a championship club. Perhaps it was Derby County. I cannot quite remember, but we ended up getting £600,000 for Yates. He's valued at 800,000. Not a terrible piece of business, all things considered. Moreno moved on for £32 million. That was a very good bit of business. I tried where I could to sell these players to teams outside of England. It didn't always work out for us, and in some cases, we actually did see them go the other way with some teams in the UK, but for good reasons, which we'll get to again when we move to Mr. Scott McKenna, who left the club after, well, I mean, it's 5 years he's been with us now. He was here at Nottingham Forest when we arrived. And unfortunately for him, he just got left behind a little bit. He was a good servant to the club. I certainly wish him all the best, but we needed to improve in the centre of defence. And again, he was part of a part exchange deal, which we will go into later. Jetro Willems, skipping over Centurion. Jetro Willems, we have sold. We did say at the end of the last episode that it was likely that he was going to be leaving. I'm looking for an improvement at left back, and I think I might have stumbled across something that might actually work for us. More news on that in a minute. And then the last couple of names on the list, both loan transfers that I have forgot that I had already agreed before the end of last episode. Tom Heaton out on loan, as well as Santi Cazorla. So those are all of the outgoings. Now, if I flick across to last season's team sheet and I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the first of our incomings, and that is Gustavo Asuncio, sorry. Um, Defensive midfielder, a very, very good player. I think he's going to do the business for us as certainly as a backup for defensive midfield, but also if we're looking to play slightly more defensively, he could line up alongside Busquets as an equally adept defensive midfielder. We'll actually move to the negotiations panel here now so that we can look at the players, and you'll notice that I will have blocked some of the names because I don't want you guys to get too far ahead of yourselves. The first name that we're going to talk about today is Salisu, a centre back who we signed from Southampton. He's valued at £14 million with a release fee of £23 million. We picked up Salisu for £8 million, and the reason why we did that was because he was part exchanged along with McKenna. He went the other way to Southampton, and we managed to pick up Salisu for, sorry, not 8 million, but 10 million pounds. A very good bit of business. He is immediately our best defender, and I expect him to continue to be for some time yet. Looking at him, he certainly has room to improve. Look at his stats here a little bit. First of all, the hexagram shows that he's very good defensively. He's got good strength. He's decent speed-wise, which means that we can perhaps play a slightly higher rear line. And the rest of his stats are pretty good as well. So defensive awareness, 88. That is absolutely outstanding. I think he might be the highest rated player in that department in the entire squad, and perhaps the highest rated for defensive awareness that I've had in this year's game. A ball winning of 87 and aggression of 82 could get him into trouble occasionally, but hopefully he'll keep his temper and manage to stay away from the red cards. Importantly, he's left-footed, which means he can play on the left-hand side of the centre-back partnership. And as well as that, despite the fact that he's not rated as being a left-back, I think potentially in a pinch, we could play him out left back if we needed to. That, however, is not the solution that I was talking about. Going through some of his other stats, 82 heading, a jumping reach of 80. He's 191 centimetres, which means he already has a height advantage over a lot of centre forwards. Physical contact of 89 and stamina of 86, meaning that if we did need to have him play as a slightly more marauding player on the flanks, he's going to be able to do that all day long. And only 25 years old. This player has got a massive, massive upside. He's got fighting spirit and man-marking player skills. No captaincy, but we'll look into whether or not we might be able to add that in training. And we've seen this before. Again, he has room for improvement. He could very easily, by the age of 27, be rated at 83 or 84, although we have seen before that playing someone regularly and them performing well can actually push their progress above that of their expected. So he could even, by the age of 27, get somewhere nearer 85. I'm being very optimistic there, but still, I think he's going to be a very good signing for us, and one that I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. Next, we're going to go down to Gustavo Asuncio. I'll get that right eventually. I might just call him Gustavo. Asuncio is a Portuguese, I believe. Brazilian, sorry, very nearly Portuguese. A Brazilian anchorman. Not necessarily a playing style that I am particularly familiar with playing. Normally, I prefer people in that position to play more like Oriol Busquets as a orchestrator, but Anchorman's certainly not a bad thing to have in the team as well. You can see he's very good defensively, not quite so strong, although he's got decent passing, which is going to do us very nicely indeed. He's also got the team role of leader level 2, which means that we're going to get all of those benefits from having him play in the starting 11 or even coming in off of the bench. Looking at his stats, he's another very aggressive player. His defensive awareness is good, and that ball winning is exactly where it needs to be. Excellent stamina, so we could actually have him as a box-to-box midfielder if we needed to. Although offensively, he's not brilliant. He's not the worst that we've ever seen in this role. Certainly a massive, massive improvement on Yates, who has, of course, moved on to pastures new. And at an age of only 24, plenty of time for him to really grow into the role. Speed 25, acceleration 71. He's going to get around midfield. He's certainly not going to be left in the lurch too often. Right-footed and 178 centimetres, a little bit on the short side, not massively so. That would put him around about the 5'10", 5'11" mark, if I'm getting my measurements correct. Not necessarily a dominating midfielder aerially, but even so, got decent heading, and his jumping at 70, not the best. I will happily take that if it means that we've got someone that can break up attacks on the ground. He can play defensive midfield and central midfield. And looking at his player skills, he's got long range shooting, which is something that we definitely wanted to see more from our players in the middle of the park. He has weighted pass, man marking, and interception. excellent, excellent player skills for someone that's going to be playing his part in the centre of the field. He has captaincy as well, meaning that we now have an option other than Joe Worrell for captain of the side, and fighting spirit means he will never give up despite how bad things might get. His computer playing styles are long ball expert and long ranger, so expect to see him taking up positions where he can fire long balls, although of course playing styles much more important when you're playing as a manager and not actually controlling the players themselves. And he too can increase in his ability. The effective training is going to see him excel slightly more than his expected progress. We could see him by the age of 26 breaking through the 80 barrier, perhaps an 81 or an 82, depending on how much time he gets in the team. So yes, that is Gustavo Asuncio. Finally, I got it right. We signed him for £5 million. He's already worth 8. Very good bit of business. Even if he doesn't work out for us, we're going to make a bit of money on him. Speaking of how much money we've made, look at that transfer budget, £168 million and a salary budget of 255,000. I'm certainly going to look to bring in a big player, but the problem for us at the moment is that we are still not big enough to really attract the big players. And I don't see the point in spending money for spending's sake. So if we can't get somebody this summer, I'll certainly be keeping my powder dry and trying to use that money to its best effect in the next transfer window, perhaps even at the end of next season. Hopefully, if we're in the Champions League, that will really push us to the next level in terms of recruitment. So the next player on our list is going to be Eddie Nketiah. Yeah, that's right. We signed Eddie Nketiah from Arsenal, and this is the part exchange that I was talking about involving Nyangbo. That's right. Nyangbo is now an Arsenal player, and Eddie Nketiah is one of us. He's a tricky tree, and it was a pretty decent bit of business. I believe we spent somewhere in the region of 10 to 11 million to sign. No, it was it less. Was it 8 million with were 4? I can't remember. I cannot remember how much he cost us. But you can see there his market value of 15. I don't think he cost us more than between 8 and 10 million, plus having Nyangbo included as a make weight. And to be honest, Nketiah, just as good a player as Nyangbo is. In fact, in some areas, he's actually better. If we look at his strength, he's a very strong player, very well balanced, very good stamina. His jumping is excellent, despite the fact that he's only 175 centimeters tall. He's diminutive, but he is actually taller than Nyangbo. I never thought that Nyangbo was as short as that, but apparently Nyangbo is 174 centimeters. Eddie Nketiah 175, and with that jumping ability and not too shabby heading wise, he could actually be the answer to our problems where it comes to a hybrid centre forward who not only can play on the ground but can deal with those crosses that come in. He's got great acceleration, very good speed. Offensive awareness is very decent as well. He may not improve too much. That's my only concern. Looking at this, his progress is flatlining slightly. I'm going to see whether or not we might be able to get some more out of him by judicious use of training. But he's a star player level 1. He's an England international. Speedy, strong, good dribbling, good shooting. Not the best passer of the ball, but he's the tip of the spear. He doesn't necessarily need to be. And I'm very happy that we have him at the club. Only 25 years old. Injury resistance are free, meaning that he's going to be available for us most of the time. He might not always be in the best of form, but I think we've seen over the last few years that form doesn't really count for too much for some of these players. He can play right wing forward as well as support striker or shadow striker if you prefer, as well as centre forward. So that does give us the option to play him out wide if we need to, if we can't quite fit him in at centre forward sometimes. And looking at his player skills, one of the big important ones there is heading. Third one down, he has the heading attribute, which means that not only is he already very good at jumping and heading the ball, but the heading player skill means that he's going to find a lot more of those headers finding their way on target. Scissors feints and step on ball control, acrobatic finishing, gamesmanship, which means we should win a few more free kicks around the area and maybe even a couple more penalties within it. And super sub, meaning that he absolutely loves coming off the bench, and that suits me because he is, as of yet, not the first choice striker. I think that he will probably be the backup striker to Hernandez this season, but he'll be pushing him all the way, and I see no reason why he can't claim that number one spot for himself if he works really, really hard. Um, You'll notice that Albiol and Lolly are still here. Lolly is at the moment the subject of a bid. The negotiations have been successful and he will be moving tomorrow. So Joe Lolly will be leaving for Derby County for the grand total of 3.7 million. He's still a good player. The problem is that just he doesn't weigh up compared to the players around him. And to be honest, I feel like he's probably come to the end of the road for Forest. We didn't use him very much at all last season, and that's normally a good indication that a player shouldn't be really taking up space in the squad anymore. Albiol, he is contracted, he's transfer listed. Burnley and Fulham are interested. I may very well end up selling to one of them. I'd rather sell to a team abroad. Maybe we'll just throw him out on loan for another season. I don't know. I'm in two minds about that. He's not going to play very much, but he could get very, very good very, very quickly. Perhaps a loan would be a better idea for Albiol after all. So that's it as far as the signings are concerned. Not too many, but I would argue that they're all of pretty decent quality. Um, Samba, we've had offers for, but I haven't been able to find a goalkeeper that could come in to replace him that would be decent as backup. Tom Heaton on loan, of course. When Heaton comes back from loan, I think maybe Samba might find himself moving on. But as of right now, that's not really an issue for us. Now, I did mention the fact that I had a plan for left back. Let's talk about that very briefly before we get into the game today against Leicester. You'll see that Teixeira is at the moment the first choice left back. At least he is the starting left back for the next match. Now, we all know that he has competition for that place with Yuri Ribeiro. Neither of these players, though, is particularly great where it comes to defence. Yuri Ribeiro, probably the better of the two, defensive awareness of 72 and ball winning of 69, whereas Teixeira, his defensive awareness not quite there, but his ball winning very close actually to that of his counterpart. My idea is, and I didn't realise this until not too recently, is that Hugma is a left-footed centre-back with very good speed and a very good lofted pass. Uh, he can play left back. Look at that. He can play left back. I'm considering using Hugma as a more defensive option on the left-hand side of defence. I don't think he's going to be the first choice left back, but I think against better teams who maybe utilise the wings more, he could very much be an option for us. So look forward to seeing him playing in those roles as we continue. You'll see some green arrows here. That's just confirmations of contracts that have been signed or contracts that have been offered. I'm just trying to get everybody tied down to a new contract. Malejo and Frimpong, certainly ones for the future. Wilson and Hloshek, more like the talents that we want to lock down that are playing right now. But anyway, there you go. That's going to be the team for this season. Unless there's any massive developments, that is going to be everybody in the squad. And you can see now that we have almost everybody in the squad on one page. The only one that isn't quite making it in there is Lolly, and of course he's leaving tomorrow. So once that goes through, all of our substitute options will be visible to us on this page here. The squad was getting very unwieldy. I think at one point we had 30 members of our squad, and we needed to trim that down a little bit. So we have done, and now you can see the new shape of the squad. Hugma and Frimpong on the bench, Harrington and Gustavo Asuncio. I swear I'm going to get that right eventually. as our midfield options. Malejo can also play as an attacking midfielder with Cosgrove and Nketiah giving us options wide. Tevez is going to get games this season. He is pretty much the de facto replacement for Centurion on the left-hand side. We don't actually have anyone else outside of Tevez and Floshek that can naturally play on the left. I'm just wondering if Wilson can actually. Wilson can as well, actually. So yeah, we have free-flowing ability to take up space on the left and the right hand side. We don't need to have two players for both sides because of the fact that we have actually players that can play on either side fairly easily. Malejo can play on the left. Nketiah favours the right, but he's a right footer, which means that actually he could play on the left hand side, cut in as an inside forward. That's something that I might try to implement as we go forward in the save. As I said, Albiol will probably end up offering out for loan rather than sale because I feel like we've got players here like Bremer who are at the top of their game and aren't actually going to improve any further. Joe Worrell actually is in the same boat. He's at the top of his game as well and is starting to top out. He could end up falling back before too long. So with that in mind, we do need to plan for the future, and one of those plans could very well involve Albiol. So I'm actually going to make that decision right now. You're going to see this as I do it. I'm going to go into negotiations, go into my team, track down to Albiol, and we're going to go into transfer policy. Going to take him off of the transfer list, going to place him on the loan list. We should get a very decent chunk of change for him being on loan as well. The fact that he's worth £36 million means that you could probably expect a transfer fee of 10 to 12 million pounds, which is absolutely ridiculous money. But he's a player that we could probably loan out for the next couple of seasons, actually, and just make almost his worth back in that way while keeping the registration of the player. So anyway, it's been a very, very long period since you've seen me play football. It's been nearly 21 minutes. So let's get into the next match, which is Nottingham Forest versus Leicester City, the first game of the season, and as is traditional, we're going to have the psychic briefing from the manager to the players. You can tell from the claps that you just heard there that we are hearing exactly what is going on in the dressing room. He's speaking through the power of subtitles, ladies and gentlemen. These players very good at reading, and it's just as well because they can't hear a bloody word of what he's saying. Everybody clapping because they've just had the greatest silent team talk of all time, and out they come now onto the pitch, or at least they will do as soon as the game plan has been formulated. We're going to continue with this possession game. I am, however, going to tell them to be more flexible because I feel like we're a little bit too regimented in attack. Support range is on 50%. Defensive line has been dropped a little deep, so we're actually going to push that to midway. Compactness will leave midway as well. Front line, aggressive. Keep them out wide. We've got centre-backs who can head the ball well. Advanced instructions will keep the deep defensive line for now. And we'll play with this because I'm still not convinced that this formation is necessarily the one to take us forward. We might end up going back to that defensive one for a little while and see if our extra defensively minded players might actually help us play a little bit better using that formation. But it's going to be a pretty familiar lineup to start the season. A back five of Newell in goal with Texera, Salisu, Worrell and Zafweek across the back. Salisu, of course, making his debut for his new team. Oriol Busquets and Arcas in midfield with Hadji just ahead of them. And a front three of Hloshek, Hernandez and Harry Wilson. Bench is Frimpong, Hugma, Harrington, Gustavo Asuncio, I got it right again, yay me, Victor Malejo, Sam Cosgrove and Eddie Nketiah. Let's do this. Interestingly, Leicester are playing a midfielder today that I was actually interested in signing. Camavinga, I think. Is it Camavinga? We'll see in a minute when we see the team sheets. He's a young French midfielder. I believe in real life he's an 18-year-old playing in the French league, and he looks exceptional. I might actually, in fact, I have been looking at him for my Football Manager save, with Arsenal. I need a little bit more steel in that midfield, and he looks like someone that could give that to me. Here we go. The players are making their way out onto the pitch. We are going to watch the full cinematic for this one because, well, we've already spent 25 minutes waiting for the game to start. I might as well wait another minute, but I do want to make sure that it is Camavinga that I'm talking about. There he is, jumping up and down. Camavinga, number 13. Could be a very important player for Leicester this season. Certainly defensively, he's going to be a linchpin for them in the middle of the park, along with Ndidi. They have a very, very good defensive midfield. It's going to be difficult to get around them, but we are playing with a wide formation today, so hopefully the wingers will be able to do some damage and get the ball into the middle. There's our formation. We already know it well. I won't be repeating any of the names as we have already gone through them in the build-up, but here is the Leicester starting 11 right here, and Camavinga actually playing more advanced than I would have expected him to, with Ndidi playing as the holding midfielder, Tangana and Soyuncu playing as the defensive pairing for Leicester today. So there is Camavinga, and it looks like we're going to get the kickoff to start this new season. It's a new season, it's a relatively familiar team for Nottingham Forest, but we do have one or two new players who are looking to make a good first impression, and hopefully they'll be able to do so. Hadji's got the ball. He saw the motion for Hlošek, but unfortunately couldn't find the right pass. And now Leicester have the ball in the middle of the park. They've moved it out wide. Already the defensive shape of my team is bearing fruit as we are forcing them into these wide areas. That's a great take from Slimani. Camavinga now into Tom Davis. Out wide to Carl Walker. Can he find a cross? No, he plays it to Under instead. Here's Camavinga. And we managed to get away with that one. I thought for a second it might have been given as a foul. Oh, that's a poor, poor ball. Hernandez puts the man under pressure, but that really is a terrible, terrible pass. We need to be much better than that, as Salisu looks to win the header. Can't quite manage it. One into the middle. Worrell trying to get his head to it. Ends up creeping over for a goal kick. Bit of a nervy start for Nottingham Forest so far. Have to remember, we're currently using possession game rather than counter-attack, so we're not going to see players flooding forward in the same numbers that we did during parts of last season. Just need to play patient football. There's no need to try. Oh, hello. Oh, for a second there I thought Hernandez might be able to get the reverse ball working, but couldn't quite manage it. There's no need to force the issue with possession game, but by the same token, that's a great ball into Slimani. He's completely taken Teixeira out of the game, and already Teixeira, it feels to me, is struggling at left back. Wilson plays it forward. Hernandez looking to get onto it. He should manage it. No, he doesn't quite. That's a shame. Harry Wilson and Hlošek will look to put pressure on the back line. Barnes back to Camavinga. Good defensive play by Zafweek. It's just all breaking down in the final third. Not enough support for the players in those areas. Perhaps counter-attack is something that we need to reinstigate. high press from Leicester is bearing fruit so far. We're finding it very difficult to get out, and there we are, Slimani with the ball. What's going on there? Surely we should have had hold of the ball there. Zafuik has just completely lost it. This is bad. This is very bad. This is awful, awful football from Nottingham Forest, and we're going to have to make changes immediately. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. I'm going to change to counter-attacking, and we'll go back to maintain formation. Keep the defensive instructions as they are for the time being, but I need to see much better concentration from the Forest defenders. Ball comes out as far as Papa. Barnes now. Under. Into the middle. Hernandez. Back into Hlošek. Here's Hadji now. He's got a chance on goal. It's not the best shot that he's ever taken. That's a foul on Arcas. What the hell? What the hell? That's absolutely a foul on Arcas. I'm just about to make the pass, and they don't take the ball, they take the man. How is that not a foul? Answers in the comments. Really, honestly, I need to know why that isn't a foul. Hlošek down the line. He's got the beating of Kyle Walker, whose legs are starting to fail him in his advanced years, and it's going to be a corner. I thought it could have been a free kick, perhaps. Wilson will take. Busquets gets his head onto it. Teixeira's going to get to this first. Can he keep it in? Yes, he can. Down the line for Hlošek again. Teixeira. Dealt with by Sionchu, acrobatically so. Arcas. Zafuik. Harry Wilson's going to lose this. No, he puts it into the box. But there's no one there other than Schmeichel to mop it up. And that's the half-time whistle. And we definitely improved after those tactical changes were made. We'll continue with that in the second half. What I'm slightly worried about is the lack of availability of players in the final third. But counter-attacking seems to have unlocked the potential of those players. It seems counterintuitive, but I'm actually going to drop Hlošek and Wilson back a little bit. Give them a little bit more space to run onto the ball, rather than being right up against the Leicester defenders from the moment that the ball is played into them. Soyuncu moves it out to... Is it Harvey Barnes? I think it's Harvey Barnes, isn't it? Hadji wins the ball there. That's very well done from Hadji. Into Hernandez, who... it's just the pass isn't right, the run isn't right. Everything about that screamed turnover of possession. And now Under with Teixeira on him. Teixeira again not winning the ball. Hernandez just slightly offside there. It was a nice idea, decent attempt, but his right leg just trailing and allowing him to be called offside. Schmeichel restarts. Worrell underneath this one. Camavinga to Hadji. Out to Zafuik. Arcas into Hlošek. Oh, it's in the side netting. For a second there, I thought he might have sneaked it in. This is better from Forest. Look at the red shirts flooding forward. Nice idea, execution. Not quite there, it was intercepted instead. I don't know what was going on there, but Leicester have conceded possession quite needlessly. It's Busquets. Arcas. Zafweek. Out to Wilson. Lovely run by Zafweek. Hlošek, it's in! 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. Hlošek starts the season with a goal. A lovely move by Nottingham Forest. The run of Zafweek completely untracked by the Leicester defence. And the low cross finding its target. Adam Hlošek with the opening goal, and you can see what it means to him. Lovely little cut ball there by Wilson. And Schmeichel, for once, not aware of the potential for the square ball, didn't cut it out. And Hlošek just managing to get in ahead of his man. Kyle Walker losing it. And it's 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. Look at this high press from Forest now. Arcas very nearly winning the ball, but not quite able to. Now Zafweek has to do his defensive duties. Can't get it. But Forest still managed to come away with the ball. And actually, given the fact that we are in a pretty strong position here, I'm going to experiment with Hugma. We could actually just play Frimpong there. But I want to experiment. The Hugma experiment is on, ladies and gentlemen. And while we're at it, Eddie Nketiah is going to get his first start for his new club as well. As Arcas has the ball in the middle of the park. Just plays it back to Oriol Busquets. Again, no need to risk possession of the ball at this stage. He says before he passes it straight into possession of the Leicester players. Tangana, Soyuncu and Didi. Wilson is running his little legs off, trying to stop Leicester from being able to get the ball to where they want it. That's a great save by Newell. I think given the fact that we are forcing them out wide, it might be a good idea in the defensive instructions to just make ourselves as compact as possible. It does mean conceding the wide areas to them slightly, but the bonus is that we have more bodies in the middle. Oh no! Oh, what a save that is on the line! Oh, goodness me. Goodness gracious me. How? How does Igalo find a way through all of that? Well, I was too busy celebrating the fact that we'd managed to get the ball off of the line. That's a brilliant bit of defending. How has he got around that many challenges and put it in the back of the net? It's an elongated example of the finish that I absolutely despise, the back-to-goal spin and hit. That's poor from us. We need to be better. Newell can see the ball the whole way, but he's got the entire goal to cover. And now, suddenly, it's 1-1. And I've made changes that don't necessarily benefit us going forwards. Although Hugma is still relatively pacey. And he can put a cross in. As you see there with Hadji coming to the near post. Unfortunately, Hadji is not the best header of the football. Oh, come on. It's ridiculous. Let me select the correct player, please. Oh, no. I would have been absolutely fuming if that had gone in. Bloshek's in some room here, and Didi chasing. I don't think he's going to catch him. All the way across to Harry Wilson. He's just a little bit heavy for him. Busquets is chasing this. He's out of position, but given the circumstances, I think it's understandable. We want that first win. I don't think we're going to get it. There's only 2 minutes left of normal time. Hugma, he's given away a foul there, I think. No, they're going to carry on playing. Walker. What the hell is that pass? Seriously, what is that pass? That's appalling. That's absolutely appalling. Wilson. Oh, he's trying to get it through to Loshek. Couldn't quite manage it. And I think that's going to be all she wrote. Unless there's a sting in the tail for Leicester City. Igalo's through one. They've found an overlap here under. And that is all she wrote. It's 1-1 here. Disappointing. Very, very disappointing. Our defending just suddenly became awful. Like, we could not win a single ball. And I do not accept the fact that it's because I went to a narrow defensive shape that took place. If anything, we should have had more numbers in the middle to win the ball. We're just ball watching. And there's only so many players that I can control at once. I have to rely on the AI, to be honest, where it comes to defending with players that aren't being controlled by me. And we've seen at the end of last season with the free kick that was given away by Hadji, who was being AI controlled at the time, that we cannot trust this AI at all. And I desperately hope going forward that the Unreal Engine powered version of PES 2022 is going to be better than this, because sometimes the defending is absolutely appalling in this game. Anyway, excuses out of the way, we'll just celebrate that wonderful Clochette goal. It was a brilliant little passing move, good team goal. Not spectacular, but it's lovely when those kind of goals come off, because it shows that the team are working as a unit. I guess we'll watch the Igalo goal again, shall we? As I'll skip through the shot that didn't. Here we go. So the ball's played out. Look at the numbers in the middle that we have. I'm jockeying him the whole way. Somehow he gets loose, turns around. Nobody else closes him down, because apparently it's not their fucking job. And Igalo slots away for what might be the softest fucking goal that I have conceded. Certainly this season it's the softest goal I've conceded, because it's the only goal I've conceded. But Jesus Christ, we need to do something about this defence. Hopefully it's a bedding in process. The fact that we have Salisu trying to bed into the defence, maybe he should sit out for a little while until he gets used to his teammates. Bring him on later on in games. But considering the fact that it was a 50-50 game possession-wise, and we had less shots on goal than Leicester City, I think we can be pretty happy with our performance. I'm slightly concerned at the fact that every team that we play against at the moment, they're getting every single shot on goal. I don't know if that's because we're just allowing them simple shots, or because the AI is somehow gaming the system. I don't know. Anyway, enough excuses. I was just poor. Harry Wilson, despite playing an assist, has only got a 4.5 there. That's poor. That's poor. Anyway, we've been going 45 minutes. That's far too long for an episode, but I'm sure you'll understand, since this was a transfer special. That's how we are in the league so far. Something that I haven't showed you guys was the beginning of season talk, where we were told by the board that initially their expectations were we qualify for the Champions League. I said I think mid-table is much more likely, and they agreed. So now we just have to get 8th or above, because apparently mid-table isn't from 10th place up anymore. It's very strange. Anyway, we have been improving year on year, so 8th should be a realistic aim for us. If anything, I think top 6 really is where we should be aiming, and top 4 would be lovely, but of course we have a lot of very good teams in this league. It's going to be difficult for us. Anyway, that's going to do us for another episode of the Forest Job. Until next time, when hopefully we'll bring you some really decent highlights from games where we've decided that we can actually attack and score and defend properly. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.